Hi, I'm Riley.
And I'm Ryder. And this is my dad's show.
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox with the Quarterback Dadcast. I want to say thanks to all of our listeners, thanks to all of our sponsors for all your support. We are continuing to enjoy this journey together, inspiring dads, but I want to take a minute now to talk about Acme Homes. You've heard me talk about them before, but I'm going to talk about them again. Bob Cumming, former college teammate, amazing leader, amazing home builder. They continue to take so much pride in the work they do, the craftsmanship, the attention to detail. Whether you're looking for a home up in Monroe, up in Sultan, up in Wenatchee, this is where they're doing their amazing things. So many people during the pandemic, as we have the ability to work from home, have decided to move out of the city to try to find homes where there's more acreage. Well, that's exactly what Bob and team at Acme Homes give you. So check out Valley Vista up in Monroe. Check out Daisy Meadows out in Sultan. And if you want to even go to Eastern Washington, check out Sienna Heights in Wenatchee. They're, again, amazing craftsmanship, amazing floor plans. You can visit them at acmehomeswa.com. And if you're interested in learning specifically about listings or mortgage opportunities, contact Jen at 425-308-8082 or Denise at 425-309-2318. So now, why are we doing a new ad? Because we want to talk about a partnership they have with Portage Bank. Kevin Jensen is one of the great lenders over there. He's a senior vice president. He's going to take care of you. And right now, if you obtain a mortgage through Portage Bank, Bob and team at Acme Homes are going to pay your $500 appraisal fee. I said that right. They're going to pay your $500 appraisal fee by buying a home through them, getting your mortgage through the folks at Portage Bank. So don't wait. Now's the time to contact Jen, contact Denise. Again, Jen's number is 425-308-8082. Again, Denise is at 425-309-2318. Visit acmehomeswa.com right now. Don't wait. Thank you again for listening to the Quarterback Dadcast. So with that, let's get right to today's episode. Well, hello, everybody. It's Casey Jacox with the Quarterback Dadcast, and we are in Season 3. Again, shout out to my pops, Mike Jacox, who passed away on December 29th. Season 3 is dedicated to him. I know he's probably getting ready to say, "God damn it, Casey," from heaven, which is one of his patented phrases. Always made me giggle. Apologize for the swearing out of the gate, but this is what my dad did. I'm very lucky today. I get to talk to a college teammate, someone that was older than me. When I was a redshirt freshman, he was a senior. He was part of our 1995 national championship season. This dude was a beast on defense, and someone that I knew when I had the chance to throw the football against, I knew I had to be on my best because he was a great cover defender. He's doing now great things. He's the CEO of Child Study and Treatment. We're going to learn more about that. His name is Tony Bowie, and but more importantly, we've had Tony on because we're going to talk about Tony the dad. We're going to learn how Tony's working to become that ultimate quarterback or leader of his home. So without further ado, Mr. Bowie, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Oh, thanks, man. I do appreciate this. I've been waiting for my invite too, just so you know.
Well, I've been calling your agent, and he would never call me back. So
yeah,
we finally did a deal. So this is fun. We'll make sure all of our friends in Central Washington know about this. And although people can't see us, we can see each other. This is an audio-based podcast, and Tony I'm jealous of his Central Washington gear on his wall. So we got to make sure we link where he geared out his decoration because it's next level.
Oh yeah.
All right. So we start each episode with, what are you most grateful for as a dad right now?
Definitely, I would say kids and family. Right now, I have a 14-year-old son who is actually my wife did met with their teachers yesterday for a parent-teacher conference, and grades are good. But what we find and what they continue to repeat year after year is how caring this kid is and how he looks after others. He takes care of teachers. I mean, he is the ultimate student. So that's one. My daughter, I would say as well, 16-year-old driver, different personality, of course, but with the mindset of, making sure her friends are fine, making sure that She's checking in on teachers and, again, mostly A student. I think she has one C that she's trying to get up, but kids are, they're my favorite. And I have a wife that sits and, from day one of school is important. Yeah. And how we treat people is important. And I think early on kids don't get it, but when you start to see the kind of the fruit of that labor, this is it.
Love it, man. So true. You gave me goosebumps saying that. It made me think of, so I wrote a book, and I hate to talk about that, but I wrote a book, and the first chapter is all about power of the golden rule, how we treat people. I always say, be a boomerang, but don't keep score. How you serve others, but don't keep score. If you keep serving people with that positivity, it's going to continue to come back to you. And I'm going to follow suit because I'm going to go. I'm grateful for my kids as well. Their mindset of, one, their sarcasm, which I'm not sure where they get that. But and then just the way they treat each other. We said earlier, Tony, when my wife and I were first married, we didn't want to be a family. I don't mean to pass judgment here, but to allow our brothers and sisters just to be complete a-holes to each other. And because I think when that's allowed inside the home, then it's easy for them to be a-holes to their friends or teachers or parents. It's just that. And so for us, I'm down with some brother-sister rivalry from time to time, a little bit bickering. But in the end, if you're going to continue to say mean things, we shut that down immediately. And we're like, listen, how do you feel if a teacher or someone talked to you that way? And just, I think when we can, and now what's fun is when my daughter, she'll be at hoop or she'll be gone and she'll come. She's like, hey, where's our dog? That's what they call each other. Right and Riley, they both call each other our dog. I don't know why, but they do. And they have a genuine love for each other. And I know that was from hard work for my wife and I, but it's when they see it and the relationships forming as a family and a brother and sister, that's all they got. Right. And so to know that that's a tight foundation, I'm definitely really, really grateful for that. So thanks for helping me remind myself of that.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that because I think for my kids, we had this mindset, or I did anyways, that I wanted my kids to be close enough in age that they would, be friends, but far enough in age where they could have their own friends. And 2 years apart, we really accomplished that. About 2.5. So it's interesting you talk about their relationships because ours are very similar, but it took them a while to get here. And so, my son was that ultra competitive kid. I would even say he had the idea that, the world was, everything she received, he had to receive. So it was, things had to be balanced. And he struggled a little bit with that. And I think over this definitely since she has received her license, they are out and about more. And so I find that bond that I knew would come because it happens with all siblings. It's here, and they're starting to enjoy each other. And I just mentioned the parent teacher conference. My daughter actually put in one of her slides that, she may not tell people, but she always has Braylon, which is his name. She always has Braylon's back, and she will always have his back. And I, my wife texted me that and I'm like, what triggered that? Right. But yeah. So they get there eventually.
That's cool. Well, my son's about to get his license, so I'm out on that journey. So it'll be a trip when I see him and the daughter go up the hill. I'm like, what in the hell just happened?
Yeah. And that's exactly the thought you have.
Oh, just praying like, God, please don't do anything dumb. Okay. So before we rewind some tape, tell me who was inside the Bowie huddle right now. We got you as the lead quarterback, maybe your wife's the GM, but who else tell me names, roles, what's everybody up to right now?
Oh man, that's an interesting one. So definitely I'm quarterbacking. I'd say the wife is the main wide receiver. You got to hit her up every, make sure she gets her catches. It's interesting. I can talk about family just because, when I have 3 brothers and we've been together through thick and thin. And so they're going to be in the huddle. And then my mom definitely is in the huddle. She's probably on the sidelines calling the plays in. Mm-hmm. And then, I got, some homies that, met at Central, you just mentioned during our pre-talk here, Brett Allen, Kenny Rusaw, Richard Hutchison, and then my boy Mike Wells, right? So that's my team right now.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my golfers. Those are the guys I'm actually taking a trip with here next week. That's my huddle right now.
Nice.
Those are my go-to. Like you mentioned Zoom, COVID earlier as well in 2020. Like we couldn't meet, so we were on Zooms. So that's my crew.
Love it. What is and so you said your son is Braylon. What is your daughter's name?
Her name's Alexis.
Alexis. And so Braylon is a soccer stud. What does Alexis like to do?
She is hip hop dance all the way. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So she's been dancing probably 4 or 5 years now. So started off as a gymnast. The injuries hit probably later in her gymnastics career. And we told her, you can leave, but you got to find something. And so she's been doing the hip hop, and she's on a dance team, Freedom Dance Center. I'll give them a little plug. They're down in Spanaway, and she does a season. So she does dance year round, but they do a season that starts late January through May.
Okay. Very cool. And wife, is she stay home? Does she work?
She does work. She does a HOA management.
Okay.
A small company down here in Puyallup, and which actually allows her that flexibility to work from home. She, again, for us, it really helps because we have that ability to make all the kids' functions, get the kids to practice on times. And, for me, I think I've done it a couple of days. It's exhausting just to get kids from A to B. But then you add in, a 35, 40-hour week job.
Mm-hmm.
But she manages it every week.
Plus laundry, plus dishes, plus food, plus positive attitude, plus energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
My wife is she was stay at home for 9 years, and she just went back to work. It's actually kind of a funny story. So after I was a 20-year corporate guy, and then I wrote a book, started this podcast, and then now I'm doing executive sales and leadership coaching for businesses. And it's freaking so fun. And one of my first clients, I worked with them for about 9 months, and I was helping them with stuff. They're like, "Oh my God, Casey, you're so helpful. Thank you." And I was, feeling good about myself. And then they tell me about, they had a vacancy on their team. And I said, well, my wife's thinking about coming out of retirement. But she's crazy smart, super organized. She hasn't worked in 9 years, but she's done nonprofit work. And she's like, well, yeah, we love to talk to her. They interview her on a Wednesday. They interview her on Friday. And they're like, Casey, where the hell has she been all my life? And then she started on Monday. And now the joke is, they're like, man, Casey, we used to love you, but now we love your wife. Right. You're nothing. And so it's been so cool to see her go back to work and have our kids see that mom can do more than just stay at home and keep the house from burning down. And I love like showing my own humility to tell her to say, listen, dad, they used to like dad. Dad sucks compared to mom. Like her game is next level. So it's been fun to kind of boost mom's confidence up. Actually, I was just in your neck. So you live in Puyallup?
I'm actually down in Graham.
Okay. I was just in Puyallup. Remember Mosley?
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I was at his, it was a basketball camp my daughter went to that he ran.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
It's amazing. Where is he at now? Emerald Ridge. So he's doing that, right? Yeah. I've had some interactions with him, with my son early on when he wanted to play basketball. So
okay.
He's really touching a lot of kids in the Puget Sound area, and and then taking on that Emerald Ridge job, and the season they had was amazing.
Yeah, state tournament, exactly.
Yeah,
he had a talk recently. Shout out to Mosley, you're getting some free love here, brother. He did this talk at this elite Israel basketball camp. I didn't get to go, but I saw some highlights of it, and I saw the topic, and it was about challenging parents to realize are there your goals, mom and dad, or is it your kids' goals? Who wants to do what? Who's driving the bus? Who's forcing training? Is it you or is it them? And it's such a good reminder of society right now. And I love that he did it because that's messages that we all need to hear about. I think I've done many episodes on this podcast around youth sports, status youth sports on, because it's so easy to fall in the trap of, well, we got to keep up with all this because we have to do 38 trainings a week and we have to do this and that. And And if we don't, they're going to fall behind. But in the end, like making sure we have family time, which is what COVID really retaught me and our family, is like how the impact of dinners, quality conversations, whether if we're going to go golfing with my son, no phones, like, things like that.
I like that. Right. My son and I, we golf as well. And that's the thing, you get towards the 15, 16, where for me, I'm still like in it. I'm still in golf mode. And, you can tell he's getting burned out a little bit. The phone comes out and I'm like, phone has to go away, man. We're not done yet. And so, so I think that younger generation is getting used to disconnecting a little bit and enjoying what's in front of you. Right. That means most of these golf courses are beautiful. And so enjoy it. Take the time and enjoy the company of the people you're with.
Yep. So true. Okay. So I want to rewind tape. I want to hear about what was life like for Tony growing up, and brothers, sisters. You said you had 3 brothers. Tell me a little bit about that, and then talk about how your parents shaped you now that you're a father today.
Yeah. So, so 3 brothers, 1 older and 2 younger. My youngest came probably almost 10 years after I was born. So a little different having him around, but cool guy. So it was us and our mom. So single mom, and really, I would say a tough growing up, just based on single mom, working a lot just to make ends meet. But I would also add, it made us stronger, and I say that because we really had to rely on each other. She's gone. So my older brother's, pretty much kind of the man of the house, making things run. He's gone. Now I'm the man of the house. Right. So it's kind of like whoever's the eldest at the house is, kind of taking the lead on things. But for me anyways, I learned early how to cook, how to clean, how to, do the dishes and all those things that I think some people don't ever learn. And I'm okay with that. Right. I also think it shaped me to just know that adversity, it'll pass. And that's where I think definitely that lifestyle of a single parent home, and I would add a single parent home, but not a wealthy single parent home, right? So we're living off of a salary that I'm sure today most people couldn't survive on, but we, like I said, we made it work. So I think where my mom shaped me, and what I believe is, like, as I mentioned, adversity will show up, and it's how do you manage it? Do you take it head on? Do you, I've learned to take it head on. I've had some challenges in my own life, and I look at it as, it's just a challenge. What am I going to do? And what am I going to learn from it? And so I'd say that's how my growing up has impacted, my life now. I'd add to that, like, we had a strong network of individuals, and my network would be, we had some aunts and uncles that are in the Tacoma area, grandmother in Tacoma area. And so, when you're looking for that father figure, you didn't have to go far, right? When when you're with your family every weekend, every other weekend. So you didn't feel as though you didn't have a father, right?
Yeah.
And I have 3 uncles, and they're all different. One's a retired military, that rigid guy. I had one that was just crazy. And then I had this other one that was kind of in the middle. And so you learned all 3 aspects of life. And so it was good. It was great. And I can never, I don't know. My kids are jealous because of the way, our family was connected so much when we were younger and how we grew up. So,
if you don't mind me asking, did you ever meet your dad, your biological dad?
I could say yes, but I was also like, so young that the memories are just the memories. Like, so I was born in Louisiana, and that's, that's one of those things. Born in Louisiana, mom was just getting divorced, or being divorced a couple of years, and met this individual. And then we moved to, it's funny, I wouldn't even say moved. We came to Washington on a vacation, is my understanding of the story. And then we never returned. And so it's hard to have that connection, right, when you're so many states away. And I've done the reach out thing. I've tried to do the connection. Never have received a response back. I always, things you don't think about till later in life. But let's say I've sent 10 letters, right? And of those 10 letters, never one came back. And so they're obviously making it to the person that they're supposed to be going to. I just have not received a response in turn. And so, and I think early on, I would say I was impacted by that. Mm-hmm. Just because you don't know and you want to know.
Yep.
But then at some point in time, as you mentioned about being a father, you have to get over that. And then I'm now a father, and I'm whatever I wanted in a fatherhood, that's who I am, right? I'm not the cool guy, but I'm the guy that's going to teach you and get you from A to B, and make sure that when you grow up, you can take care of yourself, your family. And so that's kind of, I would say how not having that connection has helped me.
Yeah.
Because, I think my kids really look up and enjoy being around me. And I'm hoping that they will, my daughter will choose someone of my character or better.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping my son will follow with that same character or better.
That's cool. It's I've interviewed a couple of probably a good handful of either people I've met or former teammates or friends, and there's a commonality of people I've interviewed who did not grow up with a father in the house, are amazing dads now. Now, you and I haven't talked in years. I see through social media, like the love you have for your kids, the soccer. I'm like always inspired by. I'm like, that's awesome. And just hearing from your voice is like, I don't want to assume, so let me know if my assumption's wrong, but like you're giving your son and daughter what was maybe not present for you. And it's like you're, super present, hands-on dad, values-based. Is that fair assumption?
Oh, definitely. And I think that's where, when you don't have that father figure growing up, and maybe, like I said, there's, I have my uncles, but you also have friends who has fathers, and, you see their relationships. And I just always wanted my kids to know that they're loved. And yeah. I think, just starting with that in itself, just know you're loved. I think that's the biggest impact that they will ever have. That's, and I don't know. I don't. It's like I don't know if I ever felt I wasn't loved. Yeah. My mom loved me to death, and still does to this day. But I would love to have known what it would have been like to have that father figure. Teach me the things that I didn't learn from him.
Yeah, but you're not the word. It's fixed. It's not the right. You're providing something that you didn't have but you're turning it potential negative into a positive. That your kids, that's all they see, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I wrote this down, everybody at home. Always know they are loved. It's a boxed exclamation point. And Tony, but my dad passed away. So like my dad was like the most diehard Central guy ever. Like he almost bankrupted himself going to games, like the Harden Simmons game, your senior year, my redshirt freshman year, when I was like, I was kidding his signal guy, just joking around the sidelines, getting in trouble, sending the wrong signals, like being a goofball. And my dad traveled there just to watch me warm up, just to see me, like he loved Central football. But like, I think my dad's generation, people in the 30s, 40s, 50s, traditionally were not people of affection. And so one of the goals of this podcast for me is to get dads to be able to be comfortable, open up, be comfortable talking about what they suck at, be vulnerable enough to share with their kids areas of their own dad game they're trying to get better. And even one of the things is, how often did dads say, I love you? And when I grew up, I don't remember that affection a lot from my dad. But when he passed away, the last 7 weeks, he'd say it all the time. And it was the best. And my kids got to see it. They got to see dad cry. And I have so much peace with it now because it ended on such a nice note after a 15-year tough journey with my dad's health, and he had dementia and Alzheimer's and a rap sheet. But I think that is such a thing that we can't rely on enough, is always know you're loved, because when people know it's a safe environment, when they feel they got belonging, they have people in their crew, their corner. They always know, because those, I think, experiences and characteristics as dads will help them get through the adversity that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Well, definitely. It's funny, we're talking about dads and they're very impactful in our lives. But for me, like my mom, which I think it's almost interesting because my mom was not as emotional and as affectionate. And so I find, now being a little bit older, hearing her say, I love you is a change, for me. And so, but it's good to have, because it was not as, you didn't hear it as much when we were younger, but I think you could feel it. And I think that's the difference, right? I felt love, but you just didn't hear it. And then, but like you said, now as I'm older and she's older, we know, time can be limited based on age. And so I'm definitely hearing it a lot more from her as well. So
nice. That's
awesome. Good. Yeah.
We talk about, so I want to learn a little bit more about what you're doing now. You're the CEO of a child study and treatment. So talk to us about what does that mean? What does a day in the life look like for Tony?
Yeah. So that's a children's psychiatric hospital. That's the only one in the state of Washington. And so what we do there is we have kids that, have challenges in the community, and they attempt to receive services in the community. So, and most mental health diagnoses, show up at school when kids are attempting to learn, and, they just don't have that ability to sit there for however long the school day is. And so they become disruptive. They could be at home, they could be assaultive, they could be, violent towards family members as well. And so always that first step is, how do we provide services to kids in the community? And, which we do, of course. There's different psychologists and psychiatrists out there that are working with kids. And the kid, it gets to the point where the kid is a risk to harm themselves or to harm others. And when we get to that level, then you have to provide inpatient care. And so inpatient care at the Child Study and Treatment Center is, we have 4 cottages that we have, depending on the age of the kid. They'll go into one of the cottages, and then we just provide 24/7 care for the kid, housing, food, but then they also do treatment, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, and we have psychologists on hand, we have social workers, and then we work with psychiatrists that, do the medication prescribing. But we teach kids to just kind of deal with those emotions that arise when things don't go their way.
Yeah.
And then we also work with the families and teach the families that same work. Like, when your kid gets into this mode, instead of giving in, these are some skills that you can use. And so we do both. We work with both sides of the house. And then for the most part, around 10 months, the kid will be there. We'll get them prepped to go back home. And then, they discharge, and, and you have a lot of successes, but then you also have some kids that may need a second go around. And so, so that's the day in the life of a staff member at Child Study and Treatment Center.
I would imagine that would be very rewarding, seeing the impact you make on a family.
Well, definitely, because again, you're before a kid gets to us, a parent has tried pretty much everything, right? So like I said, they've tried outpatient care. They've tried, some have tried camps. Anything that they can do as far as resources in the community, they'll do it. And then, then they're saddened with the idea that I have to kind of transition my kid into an inpatient care facility. And, but when you're in the emergency room for, several attempts at suicide, or just, in a jail cell because they've harmed someone, those are, parents really seek out help. And our facility, as I mentioned, is, the only state-funded facility in the state of Washington. But we also have the best doctors, and so people really, they want to come to our facility because they have heard about the work we've done, or like I said, they've gone through it before and they've experienced it, and they want to get back through there.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's like, that's God's work right there. Calling where you're serving, requires patience. It requires, curiosity, I would think, ability to listen, empathy, get kids to, how has that work impacted you as a dad? Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox. I want to take a quick break to talk about my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafoods who continue to be just an amazing loyal sponsor. And for those of you who've tried it, thank you. For those of you who haven't, you're missing out. And now's the time to make sure that you visit catchsitkaseafoods.com and get some of those amazing smoked salmon. Get some of that amazing rockfish, blackfish, black cod, salmon, whatever it might be, whatever you like. But what's great about opportunities they have, now's the time to subscribe to a box so that you're going to get that reliable cadence of the best fish directly from the dock to the doorstep. And what's great about Catch Sitka Seafoods, they make it so easy. So those that maybe aren't the best chefs at home, doesn't matter. They're going to give you this beautiful, nice laminated recipe card that tells you exactly how long to cook it, whether you're going to barbecue, you're going to bake, you're going to fry, whatever the way you want to do it, they're going to make it easy. So please visit them today, catchsitkaseafoods.com. Sign up for a subscription so that you're going to get the best fish delivered directly to your door. You won't regret it. And just like my daughter Riley says, Dad, I don't even like fish. And she does now because of my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafood. So with that, let's get right back to today's episode.
Well, it's funny you say that because, I mentioned dialectical behavioral therapy, and that's based on relationships. That's based on skill development. And one of the biggest things I learned early on is how to utilize those skills that are taught within DBT on my own kids, right? And it's about setting goals, and it's about managing emotions, and it's about, knowing like this emotion will pass, allowing the emotion to pass, and then working through with my son or my daughter early on that, okay, so that didn't work out. So what's the next plan for you? And when this happens again, how do you manage it? And so it's really taught me that. And it's, my wife hated it when I was learning it because her mindset was to like, don't do that. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, you're using that DBT on me. I know you are. And so it was very helpful in that manner. But I would also say, again, we look at our lives sometimes and we think to ourselves like, man, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
But can you imagine what a parent who has to drop their kid off at an inpatient care facility is, the emotions they're going through? Now they're struggling, right?
Yeah.
And so it's taught me to be grateful as well, grateful for what I have and my kids. So.
Wow. Do your kids know what Dad does? Like to that level?
Yeah. And and it's changed, right? Because when I first started, I was working at juvenile rehabilitation, which is also working with kids, but these are incarcerated youth that have, committed some offense and have kind of gone through that jail system at a young age. And I used to take my kids to work just for a couple hours, and they would hang out. And so they learned a little bit about that. And then, so now it's teaching them, yes, I still do this work with kids, but the behaviors are different, right? So now they're not incarcerated youth. Now they're youth that are inpatient and dealing with mental health issues. And so I think they'd be able to tell you where I work. I don't know how in depth they'd be able to go into, this is exactly what my dad does. But
yeah.
But yeah, so they've experienced it just because I make sure I take them wherever I'm working and see my office, meet my staff, things of that nature.
I think that's so important. It's funny you mentioned your wife called you out, maybe sarcastically or not, but like my wife did the same thing for me. So like, and when I teach sales teams or sales leaders, I teach a framework that I was taught called TED, which is tell me, explain, describe. It's a way to ask questions. So like, I think it works great for me as a parent. So like if I say, hey, Ryder, how was your day, buddy? Good. What'd you do? Not much. Did you have fun? Yep. All right, dude. All right, we'll go see you on the Xbox. We'll see you in 6 hours. And those are shitty questions, right? So why should I expect good answers from him? But Ted is like, Ryder, tell me one thing about your day you loved and one thing you did not like. Then I explain why that's important to you. Tell me more about it. Describe the impact of, or tell me why you keep saying math's boring. Tell me one reason why it's boring and one way it would not make it boring. And it just forces kids to think differently, communicate a little bit differently, which I think the worst thing about, these devices I'm holding up. They've taught kids it's okay to just text and email, but I'm like the old school. Hey, Dad, I want to see if a person wants to come over or wants to go see if they want to play golf. Call them. No, Dad, I'll send them a quick text. Then you're not going.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's good.
And just because I think society is allowed kids to just be so non-communicative, and I'm sure you as a leader, I know that I've been in leadership roles my whole life. You might get a C in geometry, but if you can communicate well and talk and you show up on time and how you start off, treat people the way you want to be treated, probably going to get a job somewhere.
I would agree.
It might not be using your math skills, but
yeah, I definitely would agree. I think, our kids learn, a lot from us. And I think being a leader, we learn from them as well. And we learn from people we work with. And so I don't know. I'm appreciative of what I've learned so far and, how I've taken everything and I use it at home every day. And whether it's, like you said, getting your kids, Ryder, to explain, a little bit more details on what's going on, to teach my kid how to shake a hand, right? Like a firm handshake, dude. Yep. This is what we do, and this is how we do it. So.
Oh, I love it. Well, you mentioned Rusaw. Rusaw is a former Quarterback Dadcast listener. B. Allen's, his episode's recorded in the bank, but it's not out yet. We are in March, as I said, and this episode will be out in a little bit. Before we recorded, I was telling Tony how much 2020 impacted me, and for numerous reasons. Obviously, COVID was a beast. We're still dealing with it. But what really hit me, Tone, was the Black Lives Matter movement. And I had a friend named Dale Favors, who I met through this networking journey, who I think the absolute world of. And I met him twice now in person. He came out to Seattle for a speaking event that we both were at, and we were able to play golf and just get to know him a bit better. And he was so patient with me during 2020, and he was so he opened up my eyes of how, as a middle-aged white privileged dude, how I did not go deep enough to topics that were perceived as being uncomfortable, and now I'm making them comfortable for me, and I'm showing my kids this is what is, I think, the right thing to do in relationships in life is be curious, not judgmental. We're going to listen to learn versus listen to persuade. And with that, I actually interviewed him live on the impact of being a dad of color during Black Lives Matter. Like, how are you impacted by this? And we promoted it on LinkedIn, and I did it live, so there's no recording. And I said, kids, you're going to watch Dad go through this. Mom, you're going to watch. I invited my mom, my stepdad, my former football coaches showed up, and it was awesome. And I learned about things I didn't even know. I learned about 1619 Project, great podcast too. I learned about Juneteenth. Didn't even know what Juneteenth was. Never even heard of it. And I felt so much guilt. And so I've been made it a priority to one of my goals this year is just bring a lot more diversity to help not only educate myself, but educate my audience. And I just read an amazing book by John Feinstein. He was on those that listen to this podcast, you heard me got to him, which is, I still can't believe he agreed to come on, which is so cool. But his book's called Raise a Fist, Take a Knee. And it's written about the illusion of progress of African-American hires in pro sports or women in pro sports in leadership or coaching roles, and how the Rooney Rule is an absolute joke. And it was so impactful. And I think, I know I'm getting a little long-winded here, but I want this story to be important for people to hear at home. I think as I talk about racism in our family, which does exist throughout the world, my kids are blown away by it. They're blown away that how could someone think that way? And I love that they're thinking that way. But as you hear me talk about this from a father's perspective, dealing what we went through in 2020, talk about how these topics have impacted you from a father, maybe individual perspective and as a father. And maybe I'll stop there.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, man, I applaud you for the work you're doing and for the knowledge that you're bringing to your family, and just educating yourself, man. So many people believe that the world's okay. So many people believe it, and we all know it's not. the one advantage of these cell phones are the cameras, or just sometimes it's just about the things that you can learn on them, just with different posts that pop up. So again, I say, man, you're doing the work, and that's a good thing.
No, thank you.
For me, I think early on, it's kind of like I had this idea that, reality, like we've been saying this for years. I guess that was the first thing that popped in my head. It's like, we've been saying this for years. The world's just being, ignorant to it, trying to ignore something and hoping that it'll go away. That was my initial thought. And then, but then, with the job that I have, and I was on the Goodwill board for a couple years, and we were really trying to put forward to make equity, diversity, access, and inclusion just part of our everyday culture. And so it gave me an opportunity to learn more about history, but then also to educate some that just really didn't have a clue on it. And so that's kind of where I am still in that kind of lens, just because of the work I do and trying to push the movement forward and educate people. So still in that learning mode and educating people. From a family perspective, I think I visually saw a change in my wife. She, and with crying and, just not really understanding why people are the way they are. And, but I think for her also learning and trying to continue to educate herself, and because I think her education, my education are going to help our kids learn and grow.
Yeah.
Which I think it really is hard for our kids, because our kids, based on, who you are, based on who I am, and, the people we hang out with, our kids, they're not really exposed to a lot of that stuff, right? Early on, they're not exposed to it. And so, so 2020 was tough because, reality, and my kids are mixed, they're biracial, but I've told my wife since day one, our kids will be seen as Black kids. And so you're educating them on how to respond when interacting, with police officers. You're educating them on how to, just how to act and be, because the world sees them as Black regardless of how light they are. And I think 2020 really showed them that, like, this is just really what our world is. And it's unfortunate, but yeah. So just dealing with that,
Yeah. I've told some friends recently that, like, I even think I said right before we start recording is, you and I probably won't solve it while we're around on Earth, but if we can help educate one or two or three or four or five people to be open to a different conversation, to ask another question, to listen to learn versus listen to persuade, like I said earlier. And then if we can put a dent in it, we did our work, and I think it's so, there's so much systemic, generational, that racism that's around that will always be around, unfortunately. But I think as we teach and educate youth, which if there's dads listening to it and you've not had a conversation about race with your kids, or if you have friends of color, you've not asked them some questions about how they were raised, or how does racism impact them? Just be curious, genuinely with empathy, curious. I think that's an amazing gift we can give each other. It's an amazing gift we can give our friends or family. It's an amazing gift we can give society to help make this place better and set people up for success. So, okay. So one of the questions I like asking before we get into some fun stuff is an area of our dad game that we know is a gap that we're trying to work on. And mine, I'll go first to make hopefully a little easier on you, is patience. I think as a competitive person, that is my gap. I have to be so self-aware about patience. And sometimes I feel it. I can feel it like bubbling up. I'm like, uh-oh, here it comes. My dad was times he used to freak out on us and we'd laugh because it was he would drop the most amazing God damn it, Casey. And we would start laughing. But, so patience is mine. So maybe for you, tell me an area of your dad game that you're working on, that will help you, maybe others, dads at home relate to.
Yeah, I think a gap for me is really to just be a dad sometimes. And what I mean by that is, your kids will give you information, or you'll watch them dance, or you'll watch them play a sport. And so often we want to be a coach, right? We want to give them more information, and we want to, we're flooding their brain with information. Sometimes it's just really, man, I think we just have to listen, and we have to be okay with what you're seeing or what they're telling you, and just be a dad and enjoy the moment. Enjoy the fact that you get to watch your kid do, what their passion is in this moment. And, and I, that's hard for me, especially with, my son in soccer, and, they tell you goals, both of them, like my daughter with grades, my son with soccer, these are my goals. This is what I want to do. And I'm so quick to start coaching them on, well, okay, then you need to do A, B, and C, versus that's a great goal. How can I help you?
Love it.
We don't do that. And I don't do that. That's where I struggle. So I'm trying to slow myself down and not go into that coaching mode.
So good, dude. So dads, if you don't got, if you didn't check your ego on that knowledge drop, you got issues, because that is so true. And it's like, I try to do a good job of loving more than I coach, but there's times too I'm like, oh, you want to be a state champion? Okay, well, how are we dribbling? Are we getting ball work? Are we getting shots up? How many shots?
Yeah.
Are you, Brad, do you want to do this in your golf? How many are you going to the range? Versus, and it's such a fine balance of, you want to encourage, inspire them to go, because they don't know what great looks like yet. But if we're too hard and too intense, we're going to burn them out, and they're not going to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then those same questions that you're asking are questions that I ask. And so I backed off on it a little bit, just because I was recognizing that I'm not really enjoying my drive home with my kid, and just enjoying that we're driving home. Now we're, and so you just got to let some things go sometimes.
There's a great article for those that don't know who. There's a guy named Bruce Brown. And when I was early and my kids were younger, I read an article by him. I'm paraphrasing, but the article was called The Car Ride Home. And they interviewed like hundreds of high school, college, pro athletes. And they said, what was the best memory you had as a kid, and what was the worst memory you had as a kid? And the number one answer was the car ride home. And what this article talks about is, instead of saying, like, if you were my kid, it's like, Tony, man, hey, dude, great game, but what happened at that corner kick? Why didn't you head it in? We've been working on headers. How'd you miss that? What's wrong with you? Versus what they teach you is just say, man, Tony, I love watching you play. It's so fun to see a red face, to see you leave. You gave such great effort today. I didn't care you won or lost, but you learned to compete, and that was awesome. And the article says, if they really care, if the sport is that important to them, they want to get better, they're going to come to you and say, hey, Dad, what do you think I did on that corner? Why did I not? How do you think I missed that? Yeah. What do you tell me what you think you did? And then you leave with more curiosity before you start coaching. It's called the Socratic method, and get them to talk. And it is like, when it happens, when I get to use it the right way, it is gold. It is so good. I'm like, oh my, and I have to like almost not get too excited. Like they see me like, but, okay. So if we think about our conversation today, we've talked about a lot of cool stuff. It's been so good seeing you. And for dads that want to take actionable tasks or advice from our conversation to work on areas of their game where they can, be a better leader, tell me one or two or three things that they can take from our conversation that they can work on today to be that better dad.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, I just mentioned just being a listener, being an active listener. I think for our, kids will tell you some things, but they also will, not tell you some things. But I think if you're listening really well, you'll hear what they're actually telling you. That's one. Two, I would just say, love your kids every day. And just be vocal with it too, and give them the hugs, give them the kisses on the foreheads now, because, they're no longer cheeks, but just love them every day. And I'll be honest, and I'll tell you, one that I'm still working on, but you have to like show that emotion with your spouse in front of your kids.
Yes.
I just add that one because, they really want to see what love it looks like, and that's with your spouse, I always get the don't do that from my son, but it's real, we're grown people. So So that's the other one I would say. And then, yeah, I would just stick with those three just because I mean, I could keep going, because
Yeah.
yeah, I think I've learned so much in life, but those are just be an active listener.
So good. There's a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is we hear the noises, we hear birds, we hear airplanes, we hear trees. Listening is actively listening. Put the phone down, dads, and you're talking to your kids. Don't look at notifications. If the phone calls, unless your number is 911, you're not that important. We think we are, but we're not, right? Embrace that time because the sand in the hourglass is only speeding up. Love your kids every day. I love that, man. I think about when you said that, I thought about the difference between appreciation and recognition. Appreciation just is it's your time, it's your effort, it's showing love and affection towards somebody. And it's so powerful. You said, love your wife and your kids. That's how sons are going to learn to treat women, and women, that's how you're going to learn to see what kind of man should be marrying your daughter is like, how are we showing up with our wives in front of our kids? So I think I love those, dude. I think these are great, great nuggets of advice. Okay. Now we go into what's called lightning round. When I go completely random, I think I might have some CTE brain for the hits I took at Central, where I just ask you anything that comes to mind, and your job is to answer them as quickly as you can. And my job is to hopefully get a giggle out of you.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. True or false? You taught your daughter how to do the Roger Rabbit.
False. Only because they've remade all these dances, and so I'm still learning them. But yeah, I would
Can
say
you still
false.
Can you still do the Roger Rabbit?
Probably, I'm sure I can. And well, and that's the funny part because they call a dance something else, and I'm like, that's like the Roger Rabbit, and they're like, no. So yeah, that's how our conversations go. But
That's hilarious. That's
yeah.
one of my go-to moves too.
Oh, is it?
At the Mint, that or the Running Man.
Oh, dude, you're running away from dances. What are you doing? Yeah.
Okay. Tell me the last song you listened to in your phone.
Oh, I was just listening to Jack Harlow this morning, and
Okay.
the whole album. I'm not sure why he popped in my head yesterday, but I started playing his 2021 album, and
Okay.
that's what I was listening to this morning.
What would be the one song or artist in your phone that if your buddies saw you listen to, they'd give you a hard time?
Oh, man, I don't know if I have any of those. Um, what is my new song? I don't know. I've been trying to find like just different karaoke songs, and so, man, have you heard the song "Cocaine" by? I don't even know who sings it. I probably know it, but that's one.
Yeah.
And it's just randomly. I've been out. I was at a bar. I heard a guy singing like it was called "Cocaine." I'm thinking that is a interesting song, and next thing I know, it's on my playlist. And so, and there's another one. It's about whiskey. What was it? Tennessee whiskey.
Oh, there we go.
Tennessee
Stapleton.
whiskey is my jam.
That's a
And
good
I'm
song.
talking about like I'm trying to learn this song. So when I go to my homeboy Rich's house, I could. That's my karaoke song.
I
Tennessee
like it.
whiskey. Yeah.
I like it. Tell me who would be in your dream foursome. Any three golfers joining you of all time. Doesn't have to be a golfer. Any three golfers.
I'm glad you asked this question because I heard you ask Rusa this question too. But my biggest, it's like Shaquille O'Neal is in my foursome regardless
Okay.
because that's my guy. And I always say Shaquille O'Neal is better than Jordan. I just want to put that on record. Of course, you got to have Tiger just because Tiger is the only reason I'm probably golfing today. Change the game.
Yep.
Would love to learn from him. I got to throw my brother Lawrence Morgan in there just because if I have an opportunity to be around those two guys, he's got to be in there as well. And then I'll go with Doug Williams. Doug Williams, quarterback for the Washington Redskins. The main reason I just wanted to be a quarterback, man, like very random foursome, but the main reason I wore number 17 in high school, just amazed to have a black quarterback in the league, and I was in awe of that guy. So I'd want to pick his brain.
I remember watching that Super Bowl as a kid. Was it?
It was Denver.
Yeah, I was trying. The Denver, the Redskins. I'm trying to think of the year was like 84 84?
Yeah, because I started high school in 88. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember that game. He lit it up. And think about the people he's inspired after. Well, that's actually, we're going 5-some because you got to be in that group too. So they're going to let you go 5.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. If I'm coming to your house tonight, what are we eating?
Well, if I got enough time, man, I'm going to throw some ribs on the grill.
Sounds
I've got
good.
a nice little rub that, like you gave me some advance notice. We throw the rub on there tomorrow, like yesterday, and I'll grill those mugs up for you.
If you were to book a vacation right now, where are you and your family going?
I would say Hawaii. My kids, when we travel, it's usually here to California, but they really want to go to Hawaii, and so we're gonna figure out how to get them there.
There we go. Favorite 80s comedy movie would be what?
Oh man, see, you talked about CTE earlier. I couldn't even. Let's see, 80s.
How about favorite comedy movie of all time? I'll make it easier.
Of all time, I don't know. Friday, I guess, is one of the top. But favorite comedy.
That's a good one.
Yeah, again, Friday's one of those. It's just on. You're watching it just because it's that. Chris Tucker's funny.
If there was a book to be written about your life, what would be the title?
Oh, it's funny. I would call it the afternoon special. I don't know if you recall those afternoon specials where they just kind of give you that amazing story of a kid that, kind of struggled a little bit, but at the very tail end of it, like they survived something. Mm-hmm. It was always on afternoon, and when I tell people about my story in life, I tell them I'm that classic afternoon special that you used to watch. And just where I started to where I am now, I'm sure a lot of people are probably surprised with that.
Love it, dude. That's awesome. So Afternoon Special, it is now on the New York Times bestseller. It is in airports. Everyone's buying this book. Hollywood has decided to make a movie of the Tony Bowie Afternoon Special. Tell me who is going to star you.
Man, I'm going with Denzel. Denzel's the man. Denzel would be the guy. I think we have similar mannerisms. Smile. I think as I'm getting older, I'm getting that gray hair, but Denzel would be me.
Can't go wrong with that one.
Right.
Can't go wrong with that one. I actually got scared for a second. This is how random my brain is. I thought you were going to call it Afternoon Delight. I was like, we can't name a book Afternoon Delight.
No.
Okay, tell me 2 words that would describe your wife.
My wife? Organized, supportive.
Love it. What's it called? What is this? I got CTE brain all of a sudden. The lightning round is over. If I could speak English. I can't enough thank you for your time. It's been so good seeing you. It's so fun having this platform to get to know people I've known in my life, to truly get to know them better. I hope this is not the last time I see you. I told Brett we got to get on the golf course. So maybe actually we'll have a quarterback dadcast foursome. You, myself, Rusa, and B. Allen. Let's make that a goal in 2022. I want to thank our sponsors for all your support. I want to thank all of our listeners for our support. Tony, people want to learn more about you. If maybe they have a child at home that's struggling, and hearing you gave them inspiration to go get help. Tell me how they can learn more about you and the amazing work that you're doing in the community.
Yeah. So I think about the work that I do. You definitely just go on Department of Social and Health Services. Their link is. It gives links to Child Study and Treatment Center and all the facilities and services that we have. For me, I don't have much of a social media presence other than, just sharing about kids and such. And so I think it's Bowie. Bowie is how I'm on most of my platforms. Okay. My son stole my Bowie on on one of them. But yeah, I would say Department of Social and Health Services, and that's how you'll learn about all the work that we do.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, all Central Wildcats, make sure you take a listen and keep supporting this podcast. Support Tony. and share this episode with someone who has not heard from him in a while. Here's a great chance to get to know and learn more about him and his family and the great things he's doing. Appreciate your time, brothers. Great seeing you.
Yeah, you too, man. We'll get that golf in too.
Awesome. Well, that was awesome. What a great conversation. So thankful for Tony and his time. And man, I wrote down a lot of notes. Specifically, one thing that I squared and circled was always know your kids are loved. That's things his mom did for him, which I think is such a good reminder. Easy thing for us to do is to show and just be a dad. It's so easy for us to want to coach our kids, but sometimes we just need to be there to support them, love them, and do everything we can to know that they are supported. I want to say thanks again to our sponsors, Acme Homes. I want to say thanks again to our fish sponsor up in Sitka, Alaska. And if you have not ordered their fish, please do it now. Go to CATCH, Sitka, SITKA, seafoods.com. That's SEAFOODS.com. Catch SitkaSeafoods.com. Make sure you order I love the whitefish. The halibut's unbelievable. My daughter loves smoked salmon, but I will let you and your family decide what's best for you. But thank you again for listening to this episode, and I can't wait for you to see it again next week. But again, this is Casey Jacox signing off for the Quarterback Dadcast.